Hello everybody, James here in Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 153. I'm gonna say it now, I'm under the weather again with stomach issues. I'm sure, who knows what it could be. I could be the next Kenny Omega, I could be diverticulitis up or something like that, but it keeps happening. But I'm here because Dutch is here, and that's all that matters. Dutch, are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm a lot better than I was. So, hey, I'm sorry to hear about your illness.
It's relentless. I can't stop these gut issues, so I don't know. I'm going to have to go to doctors, I think. Find out what's wrong with me. Do you want me to tell you? I told you the story off air about the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I won't tell you on air. You don't need it.
No, let's don't tell that one.
No, okay,
that was it.
So what do you know then? Are you well?
Oh, yeah, I'm actually pretty good today. How'd I look?
You're looking fresh. How's the mustache?
Oh, it's good. It was doing a little better than this morning, waiting on you. So,
Has it drooped over time?
I've thought about the subjects you sent me. I have a few ideas about them. I will tell a few stories, and so just let the people just sit back, relax. You know, we get a lot of mail, a lot of emails. I guess you get more than I do, but somebody says they can't get through the week unless they hear our podcast. Said it helps them get through the week. And one guy wrote me, and he's seen every episode, and he says, and he had an illness, and he said, without you guys, I wouldn't have gotten through it. Oh, he would have gotten through it, but I'm glad our podcast made it a little easier for him.
I can't listen to myself, though. Can you listen to yourself? Did you ever have that thing where you hated watching yourself back, or were you always okay about that?
No, I never watched myself either.
Even in the like early days when you were trying to improve and everything, would you not like watch tape of yourself back or anything?
No, not really. I watched one. I said, "Well, it was so bad." I said, "I'm not watching anymore. That's it. I'm done with it."
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I tell my editor says, "Oh, you need to rewatch this video," and it's like I have to be around me all the time. I don't want to be me and watch me. Anyway, right, let's do the intro quickly. Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls@gmail.com. That's where you get all your signed merchandise from Dirty Dutch Mantell himself. Send him an email. He will make inquiries about signed books, signed WCW trading cards, signed diplomas from the University of Dutch, and the other email that is very, very much important is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. That is how you send in your questions for the, almost weekly Ask Dutch Anything episodes every single Sunday. Right, let's get to... I'm complaining, but I think someone's got more right to complain than me. It's Abdullah the Butcher. He was put in hospital about a week or so ago, dealing with quite a lot of health issues. I'm going to read to you the latest, I believe at the time of recording, post from Abby's Facebook, or maybe I think it's Abby's wife's Facebook. Here's the post. Greetings, beloved Facebook family, fans and friends. This is Queen Malika. I am sitting here with Abby and he is resting, alive and well. I am sitting here watching over him with a big smile on my face because the fighter you all know him to be, he is just that. A champ is not a champ without a good fight. He's been getting his rest in today, and when he awakens in the late morning, I will read some of the text messages and comments from you all. All I can say is, you all are the absolute best. Thank you for caring. Thanks for all you do. Team Abby, and I have no doubt Abdullah the Butcher appreciates you all. So, what do you understand is up with Abby? Because some of the posts and stuff that I was reading earlier gave me the impression he wasn't getting out.
Well, Abby's 84 years old, which is a major feat in itself, because he's always been heavy, always like. If he wasn't 400 pounds, he was right there at it. But he was actually pretty agile for 400 pounds. And I remember did I tell you about the first time I ever met Abby?
Yeah, I think you did, because you thought he was actually from, where was he billed from?
Sudan. Okay. I first met him at Channel 17 in Atlanta, the old WTBS Studios. And it was an older station then. I guess it was probably, I don't know if it was 20 years, it was at least 15 years old, and I'd go in there and I was thinking about this the other day. I have never formally met Abby. I never walked up to Abby and said, "Hello, I'm Dutch." And he never said, "Hey, I'm Abby." I was scared. Excuse my language. I was scared shitless of Abby because like you, I thought he didn't speak English. I thought he was really from the Sudan. So I sat over there in my corner and I would just watch him, and he wouldn't talk to anybody. So he actually kept his gimmick alive in the dressing room, or at least with me. And I've had a few matches with him. When he drops that elbow, he doesn't drop an elbow. He drops a body. It is on you. Like, the elbow should just touch you with right here. Well, he got into this section. He dropped the whole body. And when he was dropping weight on you, you could tell. If he would have really wanted to squash you, is that a word, squash?
Mm-hmm.
If he wanted to really squash you, I mean, all he had to do is land on you. But he never hurt me. I remember I have a match still on tape with Abby, and it was from where was this from? Oh, it's from Puerto Rico. And Abby's the matches are the same. He just go in there, he just beat the crap out of you, and you beat the crap out of him. Then whatever you do a finish, and then all of a sudden it's over. Most of Abby's matches, of course, were, with notable talent. Most of it was, a double count out or count him out, and that's the way the matches would end. But I remember in this match, I'm watching it back, and all of a sudden, my big comeback is missing. I went, wait a minute. Where did my comeback go? And I found out later that Abby's people, or he had a person in Puerto Rico, got a hold of the master tape and cut out my comeback and then put it back together.
Really?
So, yeah, what you see now, I don't even get a comeback on him. So what he did, I got my whip, and I remember the people in Puerto Rico, they were going nuts. And that whip it was a new whip, so it was really cracking. You could hear it all through the stadium. And every time I'd bring it down, because I wasn't hurting Abby, and all Abby would do would just sell it, people going nuts. So when I watched it back, now I wanted to see this comeback. I'm like a mark for myself now. And all of a sudden, doop, it's gone. And I went, well, what the hell? And I wish I could find I know the guy. His name was Eddie. I'd like to find Eddie and say, hey, where'd my comeback go? But now it's lost for posterity. You'll never bring it back. But, and I have seen Abby fight those people in Puerto Rico. He was actually going toward them, and the babyface would be behind him. He's facing the people and knocking stuff down. They were they could really hurt you in Puerto Rico throwing that stuff. And there were too many of them. And the police couldn't stop it. You was on your own, buddy. So, but and I'm very sorry to hear that Abby is in the hospital. Of course, he's 84 years old. And I was in Japan with him one time, and I've never seen the people run. Like when he would come out of that dressing room, he would head toward the people. They would all just scatter. You can still see it on tapes. They'd scatter out of the way. And the only ones I really saw them scatter from would be Abby, Brody, Stan Hansen, and maybe the Sheik a little bit. I don't know, but they would run, just back up. You would see whole sections that were like full 30 seconds before. And then when you get there, it's all empty as hell. And of course, they would have fights out in out in the crowd, and this whole section is just completely empty. And of course, if you start talking about that, and they used to, Japan is a different universe wrestling wise than the United States. So when I got over there, there's another story. I don't think I've told this one, but the people would just sit there like this and watch the match. And I asked somebody, I said, "Hey, what's wrong with these people?" They said, "No, nothing. That's the way they watch it." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, when they have a reason to get up, they'll respond." And so, but of course, all their Japanese guys, they're of course their favorites against an American. And they would just sit there. The American would just be beating the hell out of the Japanese guy. And the people would just sit there till the Japanese guy started making a comeback. But then they wouldn't scream all the way through it, always on the punches. Wow. Quiet. Wow. Quiet. And it was like up and down, up and down. And that's the way they watched it. Completely different environment, which is actually quite a contrast to the American style. We're used to them, screaming their lungs out. But the Japanese, they don't do that. So a different universe there. But anyway, that's how I first met Abby and had some matches with him.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's wrong with Abby at the moment. I know last year he had some intestinal problems, and what you said, he's a big guy at 84 as well. He did lose considerable weight at some point not too long ago, I think. But I want to ask you this one thing: is someone else had a story about Abby and talked about just what a giving performer he was. Didn't realise he was going to do him all these favours, bump around for him like a pinball. I think it was Bret Hart. Said, in the early 80s, and Bret was still a skinny kid in Calgary, that kind of thing. And Abby went above and beyond to make him look good. Didn't discuss it beforehand, he just did it. Is that sort of your experience with Abby as well, or did you kind of have to fight for everything with Abby?
No, that wasn't my experience with Abby. If you wanted something, you had to take it. Oh, he'd give it to you, but you would have to make the move for it. He wouldn't. And now, when Bret Hart knew Abby, he was much younger. See, he went through. He's Canadian anyway. See, that's when I finally found out about Abby. Somebody says, and I said, "What part of the Sudan? What part of the Sudan is he from?"
Windsor, Sudan.
And somebody said, "What?" I said, he's he's Africa, right? It's Sudan. They said, "No, you idiot. He's from Toronto or somewhere in Canada." I went, "What?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Does he speak English?" They said, "Well, yeah, he speaks English. He grew up in Canada." And sometimes thinking back when I first started, I was the biggest mark. I should have been buying a ticket myself. But finding out some of these things, but hearing about Bret, and I can tell you why, because Bret is a Canadian. He's a Canadian too. And I think he was in Calgary. He was in that territory. I don't know if he worked the territory or just came in. He didn't work a lot of territories. I think he just would be in and out. And but I think he did that to impress the Hart family, and they could do business with him.
Goldberg complains again about Asuka, Japanese girl, over 2.5 years, like of a winning streak in WWE.
What is his bitch with her?
Right, here's the thing. Goldberg let me give you the quote. "Some girl at WWE, they did it on purpose," Goldberg said. "I have nothing against the girl by any means, but yeah, the whole WWE experience. I was part of WCW when we were kicking their ass in the Monday Night Wars. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I was just on one of the sides. Now one side dissolves and the other one consumes everything, so they can treat everyone and everything the way they want. I think there's always going to be the bird in their ass. That I was part of a company where I was the champion in a very short period of time, and we were beating them in the ratings." Right, I don't know. He's got some whinge, some moan, some complaint that WWE did a winning streak with somebody other than him, and this isn't the first time he's brought up Asuka. I don't get it.
Well, he thinks apparently that his winning streak was all him. Everybody had to be on board with that to get it to work. And he was the right guy to do it with. I'm not saying that. But they could have picked anybody to take that spot, but they picked him. And he's the most uninteresting character ever in the wrestling profession. He had a winning streak. He looked the part, a former ball player, so everything fit except him. If you ask him to do a 10-minute match, he can't do it without the people just sitting on their thumbs, because his matches were always under 90 seconds?
Quite a lot of them were, yeah.
And a lot of them are less than that. But, if most people, if they get a shot like that, they would appreciate the people that gave them the shot. Now he's looking back, and this is 20, 25 years later. When was his winning streak?
His winning streak ended in 1998, so 27 years.
Okay, 27 years ago. And pretty soon, people not even going they're not even going to remember you had a winning streak unless you keep reminding them over and over and over and over. So, and I remember your last match. A guy used to ask me, said, "Hey, did you see my last match?" And I'd always say, "God, I hope so." It was a joke, but people don't even, other than somebody talking about it, they don't even remember it, because the fan base has aged and gotten older. But I don't know. I never thought if Goldberg had to rely on his own ability as a pro wrestler, he'd file bankruptcy, because nobody would go and see him. So you'd have to have these big killer heels. And it's easier to say, "Oh, I need a killer heel," till you try to invent one and make one. It takes a while to get a talent to the stage you need him to be in to even go against Goldberg. So what he did, he actually hurt a lot of talent, but it helped him. But it didn't matter, because WCW wanted that to happen, and it did. And they did a great job with him. But now it's not him. It's what the people who actually booked him to do. I don't think he understands that. And he takes, what's the girl's name in Japan? Asuka?
Well, WWE, yeah.
How do you say the name?
It's almost like Oscar, but it's Oscar.
Oscar, okay.
But it reads like Asuka, but it's Oscar, yeah.
And he thinks that's a personal shot at him.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Is like, there have been winning streaks before Goldberg. There have been winning streaks after Goldberg. I don't understand why he's taking this so personally. Like, maybe it does, I don't know. But whether it does or it doesn't, I don't understand why it affects him at all. And he's the one who keeps bringing this up, like it was some massive diss from WWE. It's like Luthez, like, he was undefeated for like years. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Ryback, Tatanka. There've been loads of winning streaks. And here's the other thing. Goldberg... I had a winning streak one time. Did you? Two?
It might have been 3, but that for me was really, was life-changing. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's the point, really. It's like, why does he think he's got a patent on a winning streak?
Well, yeah, but he takes it personally. That's why I'm saying he's the biggest mark of all. He believes his own stuff. Now, there are a few people in the wrestling profession that I come along, and they were marked for themselves, but they didn't last. I mean, Goldberg has lasted, but they put all that effort in him on a nationwide TV show, but he took it like he was doing it himself. And that's when I heard he was going to have his match with Gunther, his last match. Everybody expected him to win. But who predicted the winner?
Did you?
Well, I can't think that they would have been so silly as to let him win on the way out.
Yeah, he looked old in that as well. I'm not saying that he didn't look good for his age or, cosmetically or whatever, but he was moving markedly slower than the last time he had a match in like 2022 or whatever it was. So it would have been ridiculous to have Goldberg.
How old is he now?
It's like 58, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's pushing 60 basically.
Well, he still looks good, and he still looks tough, but you can't take this stuff personally. It's like they gave him that, and he takes it and runs with it like he actually did it himself, which makes him the epitome and the definition of a mark.
Andre the Giant was billed as being undefeated for 15 years. I don't see Goldberg desecrating the name of Andre the Giant. I know he didn't. He did lose in 15 years. And the other thing is that in my research, Goldberg's winning streak ended at 8 because there was a match with Disco Inferno, of all people, that went to a no contest. And a no contest is not a win. So therefore, it wasn't even a winning streak. It was a not losing streak. It's like, if you want to be technical about it, in a bunch of fake matches that people told you to win, it's like, when has he ever thanked Kevin Sullivan or anyone like that for, or Mike Tenay for coming up with the concept of the winning streak or what? When does he? Oh, well, these people, they saw enough of me to let me win.
Who did come up with that?
I think it was Mike Tenay who suggested it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good, but I've never heard him thank him for coming up with the idea, or Kevin Sullivan. But
now,
again, the definition of mark now is fitting a little bit tighter.
WWE Raw this past Monday, I don't know if it was coincidence, but it'd be funny if it wasn't coincidence, is that they showcased a video package for the legendary Asuka, highlighting the same 914-day undefeated streak that Goldberg complained about. So that probably wasn't coincidence. They just gave Asuka a highlight package highlighting her 2.5 year undefeated run, probably just to rub Goldberg's nose in it.
That could have been just a straight shot at him. So here, we'll give you something else to bitch about and put that up there. So, but he has to watch that. He's complaining about a female. And I don't know how much negative feedback he's getting on this, but complaining about a guy is one thing, but him complaining about a female, he may be getting some misogynistic feedback on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know we do it as well, but we're not doing it with disdain in our voice when we're calling Asuka a girl. I mean, I think she's like 40-something, you know. But, we're not saying it like Goldberg says, like, some girl beat my winning streak.
Yeah, that's what he said, some girl. But he doesn't know. She put in a hell of a lot more work to get that record than he did. Because he had to have a lot of matches where she would go 10, 15, 20 minutes. And every night. How long has she been in the business? Would you have any idea?
15, 20 years, I think, yeah.
Okay. And how long was he in active? 3 or 4 years?
So WCW, he started wrestling the autumn, September, on television anyway, the September of 97. And then he retired, I guess, not retired, but January 2001, so that was barely 2.5, not even 2.5 years. He had 1 year with WWE, quit, and then the occasional match here and there, and then in 2016, 2017, he just had the odd match here and there, a couple a year.
But you see, you never hear about his WWE run.
It's because it was awful.
It was nothing, because they didn't have the same vision for him that WCW had. And I think WCW, when they came up with the gimmick, they were like grabbing for everything. And they said, well, this guy can't work and he's not too good on interviews. But he looks good and he looks tough. He looks the part. What can we do with him? So Mike Tenay took that, and probably he would say, well, let's let him win every match quickly in about a minute, and we'll go from there and see what he does. And they took it, and he did Who's Next, and that's what he ran on. And he did get over with that.
Speaking of short matches, in another interview, Goldberg says his shortest matches on house shows in WCW with the Giant, aka Big Show, and he reasoned that it was because they were both lazy. Also, I think Big Show was on the way out at the time, so he just wanted to do as little as possible.
Well, Big Show didn't want to get hurt. But I would say if it comes to pure talent in the ring, the Big Show, he outclasses Goldberg 3-1, 4-1. You know, Big Show really, he punched me one time. We went head up, me and Swagger, when I was with WWE. We went in the ring, and I forgot he caught me in a ring, and Swagger was already out. And I'm begging all people saying, "Oh yeah, hit him. And he held me like this, and he hit me, and Swagger really got in there fast and pulled me out. And he said, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm okay." What? He said, "He didn't hit you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, he looked like he just," and that was Swagger saying it. See, the reason I didn't get knocked out more times than I did, it was because when it was coming, I was going. Because by the time it got to see it, my face was here and it coming here, my face is moving away. So when you follow through, it looks like he killed me. And I took a bump. I hadn't took a bump in years up to that point, but I took a bump just out of muscle memory, I guess. And he knocked me down and I rolled out. It looked good. So, when you go back, if it had looked bad, Vince would have, I don't think he would have reamed me out, but he would have, but he did. He actually, looked at me and said, "Good bump." So when Vince, sometimes when he says something like that, back in those days, he meant it. If it had been bad, I don't think he would have said anything. And I don't even think he would have said anything about the agent, because I didn't know this at the time, but I was under a do not touch clause.
Oh, really?
I did that. And the reason being is because I was hurt before, and I told him I was hurt before. And if I didn't want to do something, all I had to, and I didn't know this till later on, I utilized it after I found out that don't touch me, do not touch me. But I was under a do not touch clause and didn't even know it. So I didn't mind doing it anyway, as long as, I'm not going to get hurt if a guy just don't knock the hell out of me. But see, if I had gotten hurt, even just selling the punch, if I'd have fell down and hurt myself, see, the liability lies with them, not with me. So if I'd have sued them, they would have had to make some kind of a deal with me or something. But I've been in the business so long, I said, hey, that's part of the business. If I didn't want to do it, I shouldn't be here.
So was that all spontaneous then? It wasn't planned out beforehand?
What's that, the punch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was planned out.
Oh, right.
Because the agent gave it to us, and he says, and he asked me, were you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. But I didn't know about the do not touch clause because they hadn't told me really. So if they said, okay, you're calling the play, I'm going to run the play like you called it, and let's do it. I still have that somewhere, but you don't see me take the bump. You just see him going to hit me, and then it goes to the long shot, and then I'm already down.
Big Show, he retired from the ring for a few years. I'm talking like 2006, 2007. And then he tried to become a boxer. And it didn't work out. I mean, it's not like he couldn't throw hands hard. It's just that it's tough for him to move, and he couldn't take a punch, I think, was the real thing. He just couldn't take a punch, and just most people can't. It's just how it is. It's how you're made up. Anyway, he got back to the WWE, I don't know, probably 2008 or 9 or something, and he started using the knockout punch as a finisher. And man, that looked like it killed people. For all intents and purposes, I figured that it did kill people for the most of it. But I guess you as a veteran, you've just got that timing down.
I'm gonna say I never heard a word about his punch. And if he was hitting guys, that would have spread like wildfire. Like, don't take that punch from Big Show. He will give you chin surgery. I never heard it. No, because Big Show really, to be a big guy, he was pretty easy.
Let's move on. Vince Russo. I did a video on this yesterday, and there was confusion, basically. He did a podcast with a fellow called Mac Davis. Vince Russo does 1 million podcasts a week. And there was a comment that was sort of like thrown out, meant to be facetiously as a bit of a joke, where his co-host Mac says, "Oh, I hear you're writing for a new wrestling promotion." And then he said, "Well, I heard on Disco and Conan's show that it was the NWA." And then Vince Russo said, yeah, they've got it right. Yeah, it's the NWA. And then the co-host says MLW. And it's like, oh, it could be, that kind of thing. Anyway, the way that Vince Russo reacted to it, it really came off as it's true that he was writing now for the NWA promotion owned by Billy Corgan. Now, turns out that's not true. It turns out that he's written 9 television shows, or the first 9 treatments, basically, for television shows, and also become an investor in Juggalo Championship Wrestling. What do you think about that, Dutch?
Good luck. Because his writing would actually, are they going to have do they have a TV show?
Well, I was stunned to realize that they apparently must do. Or maybe they're starting one.
Well, I don't know where they would put it. I mean, surely they would try to get a network and try to make some money on this. They're not going to run shows, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know if they're going to do like a studio wrestling thing or whatever they're going to do, but I think the point I was making, actually, originally in my video, is that this is the first mention I've heard in months of the NWA. It's so out of the public consciousness as far as wrestling goes. It's ridiculous at this point.
Oh, Billy Corgan, does he has a TV show, correct or no?
Yeah, apparently
or
it's
is it online? Is it online?
Well, it's not on YouTube anymore. What it happened was is that a couple of years ago, it ended up being on... Well, it was originally on YouTube. They couldn't get a television deal. And then at the same time, WWE were negotiating with the CW network to air NXT. Billy Corgan was negotiating as well to have the NWA Power episodes, TV, weekly studio television shows, airing on CW Network as well. They ended up on the CW Network app, which has just got like no interest or practically no interest. And then apparently they now have a deal with Roku. But if you go online, if you go on their YouTube channel, if you go on their social media, there is no buzz for the NWA. And I thought it was funny that just like a throwaway comment by Vince Russo's co-host ended up making the NWA the most relevant they've been in months.
Okay, but the truth is, what is the truth here? Is he doing anything?
No, he's investing in Juggalo Championship Wrestling and writing and writing weekly shows for them.
Invest in what?
Give them money?
How do they make money? Unless they sell the TV show to a network.
Well, that's what the NWA were trying to do for years. They were broadcasting the shows for free on YouTube in the hopes of almost being like a show reel to advertise to, television companies to sell the program. But it didn't work out for them, so they just took any deal they could. And now I don't know how Juggalo Championship Wrestling is going to make money out of the shows, or how they're going to disseminate them either.
I have no idea. But we'll pay attention to this. I may call up Vince and ask him.
Yeah, you should do.
Because he won't tell me. He'll tell me something he wants me to know, and then I'll go ahead and give it to you, and you can give it out if you want to.
Well, some of the stories involve that he's apparently already written. Episode 1 revolves around concussion protocol. Episode 2 revolved around taking drug tests and the administration of drug tests. And
actually, that actually could be pretty good. Behind the scenes of a pro wrestling show.
Do you want to see someone take a drug test? I mean,
do what now?
You don't want to see anyone take a drug test, surely, for what you'd see.
Well, you don't see anything. They just go into a stall. But you could go inside the stall. The camera could get inside the stall. And the guy he could have gone in that bathroom earlier and heated up his pee-pee and then take it and pour it, the clean sample, and give it back to him.
So,
what if they got it back and it's like 107 degrees?
It was like microwaved.
Oh, yeah.
It was in a mug.
Well, but that might work behind the scenes.
There's also a story Vince Russo's come up with that he's going to say a woman, one of the female wrestlers, is going to be losing her power within the company, and she pulls the hashtag #MeToo card. So I don't know how that's going to manifest.
That could be another interesting story.
So yeah, that's the
really,
real
this
story.
Is a wrestling show without any wrestling.
It does sound like, there's not actually any wrestling in these stories so far, but who knows?
I mean, you see wrestling, but it's like in the background. It's not the main thrust of the show. That could work.
Just to ask you, actually, what would one be investing in? Would you be getting points? Would you be buying rings and hiring wrestlers and whatnot? Because if he's an investor, but they've hired him as a writer at the same time, is he basically just giving them his time for a piece of the company or something? I don't know.
I can't see Vince paying for anything.
Is he cheap?
I can't see Vince coming off with some money and invest in anything. What you said was probably the most likely. He's trading his writing responsibilities in exchange for a piece of the company.
Let's move on. Tony Khan of AEW, ownership fame.
My good friend.
Your good friend. He has compared Jon Moxley to Harley Race, saying there's a lot of similarities between the two. During an interview prior to the AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view on October 18th, Tony Khan would make the comparison of Jon Moxley to Harley Race, noting that it's really cool that Moxley draws comparisons to Race. Moxley has been a wrestler that Khan has relied on heavily in recent years, etc. Has anybody ever compared Jon Moxley to Harley Race in any way?
Not that I know of. Harley Race, widely regarded as probably, I don't know how tough he was or how tough he is. He's not anymore, or was, but nobody messed with Harley. When people used to talk about Harley from experience, they spoke with respect, and they never badmouthed Harley, because Harley had a reputation. He was a tough son of a gun, really tough. And the world champion has to be tough, because no matter where he was, if he wasn't tough, they could just beat him up in the ring and knock him out. That's why they pick a tough guy to be the world champion. Because if somebody wants to try him in the ring, well, he can recognize it right off the bat, and he can make amends for it.
How would you describe Jon Moxley as compared to Harley Race then? Because one, I've never seen this comparison made.
Well, I don't know. They say Moxley is a really tough guy, and he could be. But I never heard anything about him being that tough when I was around him. And he was always, I never had any problems with him. He's always a nice guy to me and said hello and all this. So I don't have anything that connects Harley Race and Jon Moxley at all. I never heard of Moxley getting in a fight and just beating the hell out of somebody. But I have heard of Harley Race going into bars and having fights. And I don't know how good the guys were he was fighting, but he'd clean out a bar, or the 3 or 4 guys who's giving him trouble, he just knock them out.
Someone who works in the business messaged me some time ago and said, is Harley Race overrated? Because he was taking a couple of segments from different matches, and some of the spots he would do was almost on a Dick Murdoch level kind of goofiness. Did he have a penchant for just amusing himself sometimes in matches?
Who's that, Harley?
Yeah. He'd do some really funky stuff sometimes.
I never knew Harley, excuse me. I never knew Harley to do any type of comedy or anything cute or funny, because he was always straight edge. The only thing Harley would do, he was a hell of a drinker. He could go through a half a case easy. But I never saw him drunk. So, but he's told me a few stories about getting pulled over by a cop. And I mean, he didn't have any trouble out of the cop, but I forgot how the story went now. It was kind of a boring story anyway that I recall. But the connection between Moxley and Harley, I don't get it. I don't have anything to compare, and I don't have anything, and I knew both of them, but I never knew that that Moxley would ever be compared to Harley.
Ace Steel, the trainer of CM Punk, an indie wrestler in his own right as well, posted on Instagram, "Count this as one of the dumbest and most blasphemous things I've ever read. Utter crap. Really infuriating. Zero comparison." So there you go. That's somebody's ire raised there. There have been more comparisons between Jon Moxley and Terry Funk. Where do you stand on that, or just as little comparison between the two?
What about being tough?
Maybe unpredictable, I think.
That may be true. You don't know what he's going to do. And with Terry, I had matches with Terry. You didn't know what he was going to do. He'd say, "Okay, Duchess." Then he would say something. Of course, we'd do something else, but he could go in that ring, and I mean, he was a show amongst himself. Even if you were in the ring with him, he would go outside of the ring. He'd take one step, a goofy step, go over the outside railing, take a bump in the people. You hadn't even touched him. And he's actually putting on a show, not for only, for everybody in the arena, but for you too. So it was, you couldn't figure out what he was going to do. And he was crazy as hell. But Moxley, is he that? Does he do crazy stuff like that too, or no?
I think he portrays himself as someone a bit unpredictable, as I said before.
Well, it's kind of working, because
and a brawler.
I saw a deal when what is that? They get the long deals and they stick them in their heads.
Those
what is
skewer
that?
things. Yeah, they did that on Wrestle Dream as well. It's something I'm keen on never seeing again, is what that is.
And he had this. He had a match. I saw the clips. I think that you sent it to me, with Darby Allin, where he's like putting something up under his nail.
Yeah, skewer again.
I don't get it. I just don't get that at all.
Well, that leads into the next thing, really. So I sent you a few of the more contentious, I guess, hardcore situations that Darby and Jon Moxley performed in that I Quit match a couple of weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, or 10 days ago, whenever it was, as we record this. And there were three, there was four maybe. There was a hanging spot, which has been done in wrestling for decades and decades. There was a taser, which looked like a real taser. There was the skewers under the fingernails, and there was, of course, the fish tank. What did you make of any of those? Do you think any of those go beyond the pale for your tastes, or is it anything goes, really, for you?
Well, it's just, I guess it fit in the match, I guess. But that to me is not really wrestling. It's really maybe a part of it, I guess, if you want it to be that. But I'm more in favor of doing less. I'm a firm believer in less is more. Do less, and if the guy sells it, it is more. See, they put four things in one match, so what do you concentrate on? Or maybe I'm overreacting to it.
Oh, no, there was way more than that. That's the thing. There was like so many different spots. I mean, people forget that Darby was... Oh, yeah. People forget that Darby was thrown onto the announce table from the ring.
Now, that is something that I don't think he should get up from. I mean, that is Who threw him?
It was actually Claudio Castagnoli.
Claudio threw him. Boom. That's a hell of a. I think the throw was just as good as the taking it because he had to judge him right. And so when he hit, but that Darby is lucky because what if something was sticking up at that? I guess they had to know it was coming, but what if something was sticking up? You know, sometimes they have the pins, could be turned wrong. I don't know. Ask me, would I take it?
I don't need to. I know you wouldn't.
Hell no. I'd be hanging on him like a berserk monkey. He's not throwing me out of that ring. But when you do stuff like that, what do you sell? I mean, I'm sure Darby got up and finished the match. So really the throw really meant nothing because he didn't sell it.
It was halfway through.
Well, I don't. If you're going to do something like that, and that's what I find wrong with pro wrestling today. Sometimes it barely resembles what we used to do. I mean, they do things for high spots now that we used to do for finishes. So I don't know.
That you used to do for injury angles where you want to write someone off television.
Yeah. So if you wanted to make that, when he threw him from the ring to the table, that's a great injury angle because that is a thing you can show over and over and over again.
Next up, Vince McMahon gets a slap on the wrist. I don't know if you remember this. This was actually happening on the same day.
How's this? Wait a minute.
Very good.
That's a slap on the wrist.
Well, Vince McMahon didn't even get that for his part in causing a multiple car pileup. I thought you were going to say something. Sorry, Dutch.
Well, no, he got fined $1,000, but after a year it goes away.
Yeah, basically got nothing. So just to remind people, a state trooper apparently was following him already in an unmarked car, and he was doing like 90 miles an hour down, so I understand, a highway in Connecticut where you really shouldn't be doing 90 miles an hour. And he was weaving in and out of traffic. He is in his 80s now, as Vince McMahon, and just being impatient or just, I don't know what he's being. Anyway, he caused, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 cars that caused a pile-up, and that's pretty much it. You know, I think if that was any normal person, they would have got, like, maybe even a suspended sentence or something.
Yeah, he would have got more than what he got. But I think he has to settle with the people he hit. This is just the criminal aspect of it. And the judge gave him, and the judge knows him. And I'm saying, okay, Vince, I'm going to let you off. I'll see you at the country club Sunday.
Do you know that Vince McMahon wrote off a $300,000 Bentley Continental GT Speed?
Yep. Is that what that car costs?
Yep. I mean, I know I asked you this before, but he was always a terrible driver, wasn't he?
No, I heard. Yeah, I always heard that. Somebody told me. Who told me this? I think Cornette told me. He said he used to try to. Cornette told me that Vince used to say, "Come on, Jimmy, ride with me." And Jimmy is. You get Jimmy in a car, it's like, oh my God, look out, slow down. Oh, he's nervous as hell. But get him in he said he made one trip with Vince and no more. Said he couldn't pay him enough to get him back in the car with Vince McMahon. It scared him to death. So, and Tom Pritchard said it too, said if you don't want to have a heart attack, do not ride with Vince. Bruce Pritchard, he also said that.
Jim Ross, he said that.
Yeah, a lot of people. So when you hear numerous people in the wrestling business, when they tell you don't ride with this guy, don't ride with him. They said he drives like a bat out of hell all the time.
Now, Maven Huffman, who renewed success in the wrestling business as a YouTuber now, of course.
Yeah.
He was talking about WWE and how he believes that the WWE is now in a worse position than it was a few years ago when Vince McMahon was still in charge. So here's the quote. I came up in a time when in the ring you listened, and if something wasn't working because the fans were not reacting, you did something else. And if that didn't work, well, hell, you did something else. And if you stuck with what you had planned and it wasn't working, you were going to get your ass chewed out the moment you got backstage. And the first person to chew your ass definitely was Vince McMahon. And that actually leads me to my next point. I guarantee that this will be controversial. Now, I don't think professional wrestling is a better product without Vince at the helm. I'm well aware of the allegations, and no part of me is insinuating that WWE should bring Vince back. I don't think so, and I don't want to co-sign anything he did. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, leaving out all the allegations, there's been no news, no interesting news, particularly for the Janelle Grant case for ages, but is wrestling missing a Vince McMahon, almost a tyrant, almost someone that you fear or need the approval of kind of thing? Because Tony Khan's obviously not that guy. Triple H is probably not a guy either.
Tony is not that guy. I think they are missing a really head of authority. Triple H, he's the head, but nobody really, he doesn't really jump on people. He talks to them and he's respectful. I'll say that for him. Vince didn't give a crap. I mean, if you went out there and you did something, he would just, he wouldn't cuss you out, but he would yell at you and kind of scream at you backstage where the go position is, and you wouldn't do it again. Thankfully, he never yelled at me, he never screamed at me or anything. But WWE is in dire need right now of a product. I don't think that, to me, that the new guys they got, I don't think are filling in for some of the guys they replaced. And the guys that need replacing are still there. They've been there 10 years. It's like a football team. If you have a running back and all of a sudden he's not getting the production that he got in recent years, what do? They get another running back. But they're having trouble replacing these guys, and none of them are very interesting to me now. This is one of my big pet peeves, and I think every fan listening to this will kind of agree with me. Those entrances, musical entrances, are way, way too long. If you have if it's a 4-man tag, it will take them at least 10 minutes of TV time to just get all 4 of them in the ring. That's 2.5 minutes for every one of them. And that's plenty of time. You can walk from the entrance when you first come into the entrance. You can walk if you want to, just straight in. You get there in 15 seconds. But no, the music, and they're playing to the music, and they're doing this. And hell, if I wanted to listen to the radio, I'd turn on the radio. And then and you got 2 guys in the ring, then they're looking at each other while the other guy's making the entrance. Then you got 3 guys looking at each other while the other guy's making the entrance. It's just too long, and is not only is it predictable, there's nothing that goes on during that time. But they need to change that. They need some different stories. They need just to shuffle it all up and see what happens. They might need another big plan like they had for Goldberg that time. Just say, well, the people don't like him, so hell, let's do this with him. See if something works. And the way they find out something works is they go to the house shows and they do different things. I saw Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, the other day. He was showing these different moves that he tried to do to see if any of them would catch on. And he did the moves fine, but see, he had a gimmick he was trying to perfect. So finally, when he just did the big squash and sits down with him, that was his finish. So he stayed with that. But I mean, you can't really compare I'm jumping subjects here, but the Undertaker gimmick sits all by itself. Nothing else can really sit with it like anybody else's gimmick can. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I want to bring this up to you, Dutch. 5 matches. Raw always has 5 matches now, it seems. It's 2.5 hours. was 3 hours really, but 2.5 hours of the show. I think it was half an hour before a match got in the ring, and then that was Rusev and Penta, which ended in a double DQ. I don't think there were any B-show or dark matches beforehand. I mean, I say this all the time, but yeah.
Did they open the show with an in-ring?
They opened the show with a very long in-ring interview with Jey Uso yeeting. He didn't open his mouth until 10 minutes into the show.
Who was this?
Jey Uso.
Mm-hmm. What'd they do? Just clips up to then?
No, his entrance took that long. I mean, they did like a vignette to open the show, and then they did like 7 minutes of entrance just for Jey Uso. Then
Just
CM Punk
7 minutes?
Yeah, it went forever. Then CM Punk came out, took forever. Then they did the promo. It was seriously half an hour before Rusev walked to the ring for the opening match. You just don't get your money's worth anymore. I think also people forget just how bloody awful WWE was with Vince McMahon at the helm, especially the late 2010s, early 2020s. You were reviewing SmackDown every week for years, and you said that it got better, markedly better, when Triple H took over as chief creative officer for a bit. And now there might be more logic to the shows for the most part, but they drag even longer. They just drag and drag and drag, and they're just a slog to get through.
To me, that's not laziness on the creative team's part. It's just I think Triple H is not putting the pressure on them, because Vince used to put pressure on them. You'd see those writers, and they'd look as stressed out as they could be. And I've said this before. This is how I found out Vince's mood. Every time I did Raw or SmackDown and Vince was there, I would look in the writer's room. And if they were all relaxed and didn't seem like they were ready to commit suicide, Vince was okay. But when I looked in there and they're all nervous and jumpy and edgy, I could tell that Vince was on the warpath. That's how I would tell.
I also thought about this, right? Because as you know, Dutch, obviously you know this, I collate the news of the past week. This time it was 2 weeks because we missed last week. And I'll tell you what, I could barely find enough to talk about in 2 weeks at the moment. October, all across the board this year, has been dead for wrestling news. I'm not feeling, like ever since SummerSlam, I'm not feeling any particular buzz for anything that's happening in wrestling at the moment. Everything just seems to be in autopilot. I don't know if it's going to be that way for Survivor Series, but just everything seems to be in autopilot at the moment. It's tough to get G'd up for pro wrestling at the moment. Well,
they're not doing anything. They're not giving you anything to get, excited about. They have to do it. You can't, you got to give the fans something that they want to see, that they're dying to see how it ends or how it progresses. And wrestling's always been that way. And I've said this before, it's always the story. You got to start the story and you got to go through the story. But when I was booking, I never ended a story. I would look like it would end, but I never ended it to where I couldn't go back to it if I needed it. And a lot of times I'm glad I didn't end the story, because probably 2 weeks, you can't make the right call all the time. And when something I had planned didn't go, I would go back to what I'd tried before. And you can do that a couple of times, and that's it. So finally, you just got to give up on it. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but you got to do these stories. And sometimes even watching it in the ring, it would just come to me. The next step we need to take in this is this, and we do it, and it would continue to going. I sold out in Puerto Rico because I was the only one doing the booking. I didn't have a creative team. I just did what I wanted to do. And I had 2 years there of almost not sellouts every week, but I had probably 10 or 12 sellouts in the big building. And that's a lot. That's like once or twice a month.
This is a booking question I've never asked you before, Dutch. Let's say you've got a card with, let's say it's a big card, 8 matches, televised, everything. how many of those matches should have stories going into it, and how many of those matches should be matches for matches' sake?
Well, you can't not on your big show. You try to have at least say you're going to have 8 matches. I never liked 8 matches. I always thought that was too long. That was too many matches. I would have 6, but I would have at least 5 of them have a story. Then I would lead up to it.
What about on TV? Because, I mean, you've just got to just have some wrestling matches for the sake of it, just to entertain the fans. Or
Vignettes.
Get one person over, yeah.
Vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I kept everything alive. Because I had a guy in Puerto Rico that was a tremendous video guy. And I would tell him, and sometimes he would tell me, listen, I want to do this. Okay, we'll do it. And every time I had a big show, the last thing they would see on the Saturday TV show was like a 5 or 6 minute vignette of everything we had done up to that point, and it ends tonight, and that was the last thing they would see.
Let's move on then. I'm not sure I want to talk about no-compete clauses, really. We'll just brush past it quickly. So there's a rumor that WWE were trying to enact his 1-year no-compete clause to force him back in WWE. Eric Bischoff recently said that he can't see Tony Khan spending $500,000 or whatever it might be to get Andrade's no-compete clause thrown out because Andrade is not worth the money. And Samantha Irvin, who is Ricochet's fiancée or wife or whatever, she was formerly the announcer, one of the ring announcers, and probably the most liked one in WWE. She left, and she recently revealed that she had a 2-year no-compete clause, but in that sense, it wasn't as big a problem because she was leaving WWE to try and stir up a singing career instead. So there was so there was no conflict of interest.
I always thought that no-compete clause had to be a no-compete clause had to be thrown out or discarded because it was like not unconstitutional or not legal or something. How can somebody tell you can't compete? Do they still have a 1-year non-compete?
Well, normally it's 90 days, but it can be 1 year.
I heard that was illegal too.
Oh, well, I'll explain that in a second as well. So normally it's 90 days unless you are fired for just cause or, like you're not showing up, but basically a major infraction or you're failing tests or something like that, or just causing issues big time, and they can enact apparently a 1-year clause. To answer your other question, last year I think it was pushed through Congress or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know the American way. I don't know the American House of Representatives in any way. Anyway, it was made into law, but then Texas, the state of Texas, challenged it. That was to abolish pretty much all no-compete clauses, and about 6-7 weeks ago, they've just given up on it. So basically, the law hasn't changed after all.
So is it still enforceable?
Yeah, apparently so. I mean, the thing I'll say, though, is that Alberto Del Rio, I mean, you were there at the time when he slapped that writer. They tried to enforce a 1-year no-compete clause on Alberto Del Rio or something like that, and he took WWE to court, and they actually negotiated terms that were favourable to both parties. So, like, if you've got the resources to take WWE to court, it's not really worth the paper it's written on, but it'll just cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. I was there the day he slapped. I had just got up from the table and he slapped the hell out of that guy. And I heard about it in the dressing room. But anyway, that non-compete, I often thought I heard years before that anything was ever settled that wasn't legal anyway. They're really forcing you or keeping you from getting another job to support yourself, which sounds very unconstitutional to me. I think the best they could do is a 30-day. I think they could have, but 90 days, that's too long.
Well, they pay you for those 90 days, but the other bone of contention with Andrade is that they fired him for just cause, and that was a year that he couldn't wrestle anywhere else, and that they were not going to pay him for that 1 year.
Oh, well, he's got a big bitch.
Yeah.
They weren't going to pay him. So,
right, let's move on. Ric Flair, WWE intellectual property issues. So, There are only two people, this is a quote from Rick, only two people who own their intellectual property in the history of WWE, me and The Rock. That's not true. But Hulk Hogan owned his, but now he's in a terrible mess with his family fighting over his money. So how did I get ownership of my persona? Because I sued them. When I was dying, I was on life support for 14 days, and everybody cashed in. My agent stole 150 grand because if I had died, it would have gone to court, depending on whatever my will was at the time. Estate planning is very important, by the way. But everyone cashed in because they thought I was going to die. When I lived, I found out what was going on. I read the letters WWE were writing me, asking me to sign and assign my intellectual property back to them. So I didn't sue. I just said, I'm going public with this. Give me my shit back.
Mm-hmm. And they gave him his stuff back.
Well, I don't understand how they could have taken it from him because he was Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, long before he got to WWE.
I don't either. Well, I don't listen. Take everything that Rick says with a grain of salt. There is probably some truth in that somewhere if you look for it, and it could be all of it true. I don't know, but so when he was, so he painted. Rick always paints himself as the victim. He was dying, so and he couldn't fight back, and so they screwed him around. So anybody that reads that say, oh, yeah, well, Rick, you did the right thing. I don't know if he did the right thing or not, but if he has his stuff, good for him.
I remember the Team 3D thing from TNA. I'm lying down, by the way. I've got stomach issues, just in case people are wondering, or tuned in late. It's more comfortable this way. Team 3D, the Dudley Boys, they had been the Dudley Boys in ECW, and apparently, according to Bubba, I guess, when they went to TNA, WWE tried to claim intellectual ownership, basically, over that trademark. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, we've been Dudley Boys long ever since. Anyway, the point is that Bubba said, look, we could have taken them to court. It would have been costly. We probably would have won. But once again, at what cost? So they just changed their name instead. But I don't understand why WWE... I do understand, but I don't understand at the same time why WWE are so, and have been for decades, so greedy to own all intellectual property from any wrestler, regardless of whether they came up with it or not. Because even like a Samoa Joe or an AJ Styles, they got to keep their name in WWE, but they still had to like temporarily sign their names away to WWE, almost like on a leasehold basis, which I get for merchandise and stuff. But once again, it's like, man, they are, they've got an iron claw, an iron grasp over this kind of thing.
I think that's shades of Vince and his personal attorney. I think he told Vince, he said, don't give anything away. I don't care what it is. And that's why the WWE, they fight so hard to hold this stuff. I used to even think about it. I said, what difference does it make? But apparently it makes a hell of a lot of difference in the legal world. But they were always the Dudley Boys that I can remember. And what team, what were they called in TNA? Team 3D?
Yeah.
The 3D. Where's the 3 come in? Didn't they have another guy?
No. Well, I mean, there was Spike Dudley, but no. Because their finisher was called the Dudley Death Drop. So 3D, that's where that came from.
Dudley Death Drop, 3D.
Yeah.
Got it. It works too. Yeah, I don't really understand all that stuff. That's in the legal atmosphere, and I'm horrible at that stuff.
Well, we'll move on then. Well, this is kind of legal in another sense. So, Charles Manson was a Bray Wyatt fan.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I'm going to give you the full
Wait a minute, when did Charles Manson die?
Not too long ago. Have you ever seen that clip of Charles Manson where he's pulling loads of random silly faces?
When he's doing what?
He's just going, bleh, 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 like, and he's like an old man.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it's weird.
I'm glad I didn't see it because I want to remember Charlie Manson like he was. Like when he went into jail. That's what I remember Charlie Manson from. But, if you think about what those people who followed him, what they're accused of doing, Charlie Manson didn't do any of it.
No, but it wasn't.
They did it.
I know, but it was on his orders, and therefore he was as guilty as they were. Yeah.
Did you hear him give the orders, or did they just said that, right?
Yeah, but
They're murderers. So they're saying Charlie told us to do it. They were all high as hell. Who knows what was said?
hey, some of those people were like Charlie Manson, like obsessives for years and years afterwards, till the day they died. So
Oh
they were
yeah.
under a spell, for the entirety of the remainder of their lives,
Yep.
which is crazy.
Sure were.
Have you?
Okay,
Have you?
so
I was going to say, have you watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
love that
It's a
movie.
great film.
Love that movie. I actually go back, well, not once a month, but every 2 or 3 months I go watch it because great movie. If you haven't seen it, highly, highly recommend watching the movie. Great movie. Everybody does their part in there, and it's understandable. And they really catch the vibe of what year was the Charlie Manson murders?
Oh, like 68, 69, something like that.
Yeah, they catch the vibe of it too. Sunset Strip, all that kind of stuff. You actually think you're there, but it was a great movie. Yeah, and I did see that.
So, not based on real life events, or completely skewed anyway, from real life people, or some of them anyway. Right, former WWE writer Nick Manfredini was a guest on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s Wrestling with Freddie podcast. He revealed that a former college football teammate of Bray Wyatt, who was working as a guard at a California state prison, showed Wyatt's promos to infamous cult leader Charles Manson. He claimed that the latter became a fan and wanted to meet the former WWE star. Charles Manson, this is the quote, "I don't know if this story's ever been told." Well, I forgot to say, you've already said it. We don't need to quote the damn thing. Anyway, Nick Manfredini says Charles Manson was a major influence on Bray Wyatt's character, speaking in the same interview. He said that Bray Wyatt's Wyatt family character was inspired by Charles Manson. Quote, well, I don't need to quote it. It's basically just said the entire thing in the build-up to the quote. But there you go. So Charles Manson inspired, and Charles Manson actually wanted to meet Bray Wyatt. And I think at some point, they were actually going to try and make that happen.
Mm-hmm. I read that. I'd never heard that. But, I was there when Bray Wyatt was there and he was doing the family and all this. I never saw where he did anything that made the people dislike him. He was like the closest thing to a babyface as you could get without crossing the line. He never really cheated to win anything. He'd just go out there and eventually, he would win, but he would win his matches. He'd basically just beat them. So there's nothing to get mad about. And his interviews that they did wouldn't made people enjoyed them. They were well made. So what was the people supposed to dislike Bray Wyatt for? And that never was explained to me or shown to me. And when people light their phones up and hold it up, that means that they're not really hating the guy. They're actually on his side. So did you ever hear a bunch of boos for Bray Wyatt?
No, not really. I mean, he had cool music. No. He had a cool entrance.
Yeah,
they really went all the way with him.
They did, but did he draw a lot of money? You think?
Weirdly, in the later years,
he was a show just unto himself.
He was a huge merch seller. He
yes,
was when he was fired in, I don't know if it was during the COVID times or just before or just after, whenever it was, around that time. He was let go. He was the biggest surprise when he was released. And it was also said at the time he was making $4 million a year. He was one of the highest paid guys on the roster. And once again, he had the Fiend thing with the mask and the belts and stuff like that. He was selling loads of merchandise.
And he had enough of it to sell too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they had that in mind when they invented that character, or did Bray invent it?
Probably a Bray thing or a collaboration, but I think it came from his head to a point.
Well, and it worked. But as far as I think selling merchandise is, that means that he's over with the people. They may not have reacted that much, and they didn't want to see him get beat down, didn't want to see him get humiliated, because he wasn't even human, really. What was that last thing they did with him where he did an outside like a kiddie show type deal. What was that?
Oh, something like Bray Wyatt's Funhouse or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they had loads of puppets But then they had the Uncle Howdy thing, and then obviously Bray disappeared before that could come to fruition. But he was just gone, and we didn't realise that he was suffering from really terrible health issues that would ultimately kill him. I remember at the time we were speculating wildly, but I don't think anyone could have guessed that.
What happened to him? How did he die?
I think he had a heart attack. I can find out
Mike
for you.
Rotunda is his father.
Yes.
Wow. And when did Bray Wyatt pass away?
I think it was the year before last. I'm going to say 2023. I'm going to tell you that exactly. 24th of August 2023. I'm going to tell you his cause of death as well, exactly. But I think he had like one of these like defibrillator things, like one of these ones that you wear on the outside at all times, because I think his like heart was constantly failing. But he died of a heart attack in his sleep. There we go. And he was given a defibrillator, and I think he left it in his car, and he just had a heart attack in his sleep and died.
Wow. But was he working for WWE at the time?
He was, but he'd been taken off television for months prior, which is why at the time we were thinking, what could this be? Has there been some sort of creative differences, or is he injured secretly? But I don't think anyone could guess that.
Now, we talked when we first, or you did, when we first came on the show today about Mike Rotunda, but nothing was released about. He's been placed in hospice. In case you missed it, people, Mike Rotunda has been placed in hospice, but we don't know why.
Not yet. No, we don't.
So, do you think that could possibly have anything to do with his heart too?
I will never speculate on that kind of thing. I have no idea. It could be anything. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Right, we're going to move on. We've only got two more things to talk about. Jade Cargill turns heel. So Jade Cargill returned this past week on WWE SmackDown. She'd been gone for a month because of that whole Nia Jax thing, where Jade Cargill, I don't know if Nia Jax threw her too hard or Jade Cargill just didn't get her hands up, but she got a massive laceration. You could see her brain practically through this huge cut on her head. She, laudably, she continued the match and everything, but after that, she took a month off, and she's just come back. And then Cargill helped even odds for Tiffany Stratton after she was being attacked 2-on-1. Then she raised Tiffany Stratton's arm, and I think you and me and Stevie Wonder and everybody else could see where this one was going. Jade Cargill attacks Tiffany and then turns heel in the process. So what do you think of this then? Jade Cargill's finally a heel.
Well, I think she should have, being a heel is the art form. She may be a good heel, and she might not be a good heel. She was a heel that night when she turned on Tiffany, big heel. But being a heel is a little bit more complex than just people booing you. But in watching her, I could see, I said, well, I think she might need to. It looked like her and what's the other girl's name? She had the little deal. What was her name?
Bianca Belair or
Bianca. Yeah. I think Bianca was doing all she could do to give the spotlight to the girl, but she needed to be a heel. But now that she's a heel, let's see how she does.
Now, the old wisdom, correct me if I'm wrong, Dutch, is that if somebody's inexperienced, they need to start as a babyface. Because, as you say, a heel is more difficult and multifaceted.
And why do they need to start as a babyface?
Tell me, I don't know.
No, she needs to start as a babyface. It's because to get her feet wet, and she's in there with the experienced heel telling her what to do, when to do it, how to look, don't get up, sell this, And once she gets a month or 2 months, she gets over her nervousness. She should get over, I think most people starting out, male or female, they probably need differing times, at least a month to get over their nerves. And when somebody is talking to them and got control of it, all you got to do is follow their instructions. And then when you come back, then you get a grade from the agent, you get a grade from your opponent. How'd you do? How'd I do? And then she learns that way, or they learn that way. But they need to start as a babyface and then kind of morph their way over into being a heel. Now they got a little bit of ring time, quarterbacks, they call it, getting the reps, just going through the motions. So when they finally do, if you ever end up in a position to where they do end up turning you heel, you more or less understand what needs to be done and when to do it and when not to do it. Thing about wrestling, you never really stop learning. I mean, you reach a point after several years that, you might need to learn another move, but your timing is so important. You can be an average performer in the ring, but if you have timing and you can talk, you can be a star.
Is it even the case anymore with heels and baby faces calling matches? Because in WWE and NXT, they work out the match for hours on end beforehand.
Yep.
And then the referee in the back tells them what to do every step of the way anyway.
The referee tells them?
Well, through the referee, so, the agent in the back.
The earpiece.
Yeah.
Well, the agent's doing the match. I've seen that done too. But he only does that with the guys that, a lot of the older guys say, hey, you're not telling me what to do. I'll do what I want to do. So those are the best matches to agent because they take control of it. Like, would you go to John Cena and Randy Orton and say, okay, guys, I'm going to call it from the booth? They say, get the hell out of here. You're not calling shit from there. We'll call it in the ring and you just report on what you see. We'll do this. Because they didn't make their name and didn't make their money by having an agent call their match. And who's this agent that could step up and say, hey, I'm the agent, so I'm going to take charge. They might even slap that agent for even thinking that. So, and put yourself in their position. If you was Randy Orton, would you trust your career with an agent? No, I wouldn't either. And they're not going to do it either.
With Jade, she's always come across as a heel to me. I'm surprised it took that long. She's always, because, obviously she's in amazing cosmetic shape.
Yes.
She's always, I guess, struggled with pro wrestling, but, basically gets through it at this point. She's had quite a few years practice now. But she's always had that air of, at least on camera, at least, in the arena, as someone who feels they're better than everybody else. And I don't even know if she's going for that, especially when she was a babyface. But, I mean, if you've got that natural arrogance or apparent arrogance about you, I mean, it's nothing but a positive.
Well, if you can put off any kind of an aura that you're better than the fans, that's half the battle right there. Because, and that's why I used to do interviews. I'm taking it back to myself because I have nobody else to take it back to. You always put yourself above the fans. They're like little lowly people, and where you're up in the stratosphere. And if you can tell that story and get them to believe that, however you tell it, that's half your battle.
We'll move on to this as well. Nikki Bella nearly KOs Roxanne Perez twice in a row.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, I think we should probably see it together one more time, so bear with me 1 second. Here we go. It is, I'm going to turn the volume down as well. I'm going to skip it forward a bit. This is Roxanne Perez and Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella's just come back to WWE. Anyway, Roxanne Perez gave, before this video, Roxanne Perez gave Nikki Bella the lightest slap in the world. Tips of the fingers, sell the hair, like Ricky Morton would say. And then they do a couple of things, and then it's time for Nikki Bella to slap Roxanne Perez back. Here we go.
Nikki Bella knows a trick or two, 20-plus years in this industry.
She smacked her so hard, she went face down onto the floor.
Yeah, and look at the referee down. Referee saying, are you okay? Are you all right?
Yeah.
And she gets up and she's staggering. Now, I don't know. That's a shoot. because usually they don't have that foresight to actually stagger after a shot, but a slap can knock you out. And she gave her a good one. And the referee's holding her up right there.
She's doing the X thing. Like, she does it very briefly. I'll just play this bit, one sec. She just goes, and then she just stops straight away. Yeah. So maybe, like, Roxanne just said, I'm all right, I can continue. Mm-hmm, anyway, so if she thought she couldn't continue from that, then Nikki Bella then gives her this drop kick right in the face. Have that.
Well, welcome to wrestling.
I know, but I thought like Gunther or someone would be the hardest hitter in WWE. Who would have known it was Nikki Bella after all this time?
Well, Nikki Bella's, I tell you, you wouldn't think women would have that hard a slap, but she slapped her open. See that follow through? Mm-hmm. And most people, if you get slapped, you would just sell the slap. She went down. So, but it looked good. And
I say, of course it looked good. Anyone can hit anyone as hard as they can. It will look good.
Absolutely. So, but I'm saying the girl went down, not because of a sale, because she had to. She had nowhere else to go. Referee holding her up, giving her the, hey, let's go home sign. And then they waved that off real quick, or they didn't go. And then she got kicked in the face. I would like to have been a fly on the wall back in that dressing room. What do you think was said?
Like, damn, lighten up, brother. Yeah, call my wife and family.
No, the best thing to do is, I bet you, Bella, the Bella girl, was saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Because she knew she slapped her hard and kicked her too. So the best thing you do, the offending party needs to apologize first. So, and I think that's probably what happened.
Now, you, I mean, we know you've been knocked out in the ring before. Long-time listeners of Storytime with Dutch Mantell know this, especially in Japan with Akira Maeda. Oh, you've told that story before. You got a heel kick right to the face and you weren't expecting it. Have you ever been slapped? Who slapped you the hardest?
I'm going to tell you, a female.
Mm. Oh, I know who it was, but I won't say it.
Who?
I know. Okay, shall I say who I think you're going to say? Lana.
No kidding. She slapped me damn near in the next week. Was in the back talking about, she said, I'm going to slap you. I'm going to slap you hard. I said, nah. I'm going to be big. I'm always been a stickler for, hey, at least make it look real, even if you have to hit me. And I said, lay it in. She said, no. I said, no, lay it in. I can take it. Well, she laid it in all right, but she hit me not here. She hit me up here and I told her to hit me. So I have nobody to blame. I can't blame her. She hit me and I went, woo. But she didn't come in there and she didn't apologize. She said, how was that slap? I said, well, it was there, is all I said. And she said, I was a little stiff with it. And I said, well, it was okay. But I told her to do it, and she did what I told her to do. So whose fault is it? Is mine.
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you ask for. Everybody, this is a bit of a shortened episode. It's my fault. I'm struggling. And we're going to do Ask Dutch Anything, which is going to be a little bit of a shortened episode as well. But I'm going to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We were away last week because Dutch couldn't make it on Tuesday. I was busy on Wednesday. And then I couldn't make it on Thursday. So it's just a confluence of just issues that we just couldn't line it up whatsoever. So that's why we were away for a week. But everyone's happy. Everyone's fine and everything. So we will be back on Sunday for Ask Dutch Anything. Once again, that email to submit your question to Ask Dutch Anything is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. The only way you can contact this show, or that show in fact, and get your question read out for a future episode, please do. We always like to hear from you. Until then, until Sunday, Dutch and everybody out at home, we the people.